Hello, this is Tom Koch. Just want to let you know I can barely hear anything. I think you might have to get closer to a microphone.
Thank you, Tom. We were just having a little side conversation, so we'll keep our voices up. Can you hear us?
Okay.
Yeah, we have. Is that better?
It's very, very weak. I got my volume up all the way.
Okay, good to know, Tom. Of course, this is our first try at a hybrid meeting here. We tested this earlier, and I think the audio and video are not the greatest, so we're going to look at upgrading that for future meetings, either here in this conference room or at a different space.
Okay. If I have to hold my phone to my ear, I will turn the video off.
Okay.
So we have
Hey, Tom.
I don't want you to see straight through the head and out the window.
Tom Little, is that Greg Allman with you?
Yes.
Wow. I didn't even know he was still alive.
I thought Chester Arthur was joining us today, but I see that he's cleaned up a little bit.
Do you want to use the phone?
I don't.
It should pick it up though. Yeah.
How's the audio for everyone else? Are you able to hear us okay?
Yeah, it's good for me.
Sounds good to me.
Yes.
Me too.
Good.
It's excellent.
Yeah, I can hear.
Thank you.
I think we have. I haven't seen Jean.
Jean is there now?
She is.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jean is there.
No, I think we're all here. Well, why don't I call the meeting to order and convene this meeting of the Legislative Apportionment Board. Good morning. This is our first meeting under the now renewed or old Vermont public meeting requirements, where we have to have a physical location where someone has to be hosting in order to accommodate members of the public who wish to join us at a physical location here at the Secretary of State's office on State Street in Montpelier. And we are still testing out this revised setup, and we'll hope to make improvements as may be needed. And in terms of having greater in the same room participation, we may need to find another location, not necessarily at the Secretary of State's office, but where we could have more room for ourselves, our people who are helping us in this work, and members of the public. So stay tuned about that. The minutes of the May 27 board meeting were posted and circulated, and they went through, they followed our agenda from that meeting, public comment, aptitude training, racial equity task force presentation, other updates, and other business. Were there any additions or corrections that anyone would like to suggest? Or if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as
moved.
Mr. Koch has moved it.
Second.
Seconded by
It's Jeremy.
Jeremy. Seeing no further comment or debate, I will bring it to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please signify by saying no. It's a unanimous vote and the ayes have it. Thank you. So I think was indicated in the emails setting up this meeting, we don't expect this to be, this is a shorter meeting than typical, but I wanted to have a meeting to keep whatever momentum we have achieved. Chris, can you tell whether we have anyone joining us from in the sort of member of the public category?
Doesn't look like we do. Nope.
Then we will not ask for any public comment at this time, but we can keep that open for later in the meeting. Update on recent mapping efforts. I have been working with the Secretary of State's office, and we're reaching out as well to John Adams at the Vermont Center for Geographic Information about ensuring that we have adequate and available mapping resources for those of us on the board who have yet to master the ins and outs of maptitude. And I think we are going to be in good shape there. I don't know if we've heard back from John. John, I don't think was able to be with us today. His email message back was that his office is closed today, so they may be on a field trip or or in a training, more likely. But Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't. I have not heard from John.
My sense of that is that it's going to be critical for us to have some supplemental mapping resources that we would need to manage well, so that whoever we have helping us is not barraged with an overwhelming number of requests, and that if we can sort of funnel them through me, we can do it in an orderly way that will avoid, to the extent possible, overlap and duplication and redundancies. If it turns out that that still isn't working, we will find a way to retain some additional resources through some kind of a consulting or a subcontracting arrangement. Mr. Chernick, I see you're with us. If you have any update on the timing of the census results from when we last met, and what you may well not have, could you offer that to us at this moment?
He was here, but actually I don't see him.
Or Amarin, if you have any further intelligence through NCSL.
Good morning, Amarin Aberdaly, Legislative Council. We do not have any updates on that today.
Okay, so we're still operating on the assumption that we will get the final set without bells and whistles on or before August 15, and the bells and whistles version sometime at the end of September. Ed, did you have something to share about that?
No, it was actually about the mapping resources.
Okay, go ahead.
So as you know, I'm not really sure how I got on this list, but there's this fellow from the Princeton gerrymandering project named Jason Rode, and he had reached out and see if people wanted to participate in sort of this nationwide brainstorming meeting. I attended that a couple of weeks ago, and there were folks from all over the country that sit in similar positions as we do, as well as staff, I guess the equivalent of legislative council. As folks can imagine, where there's congressional districts involved, A, and B, in a lot of other states, there's a lot more partisan issues. I haven't really seen that come up with this board. So they had, some people were talking about complex systems regarding hiring somebody that, you know, the sort of mechanizations they need to go through in order to hire somebody that everybody agreed to regarding making maps. So fortunately, we're not dealing with that issue. But one thing that I did note was that there, and I know that Vermont's a lot smaller than a lot of states, but even I think the participant was from Wyoming, or maybe it was Montana, so not much bigger than Vermont. They had like a dedicated cartographer. And, you know, that might be a little bit of a reach, but I think it's really important. I mean, I will say that I have struggled with the ability to master the software. I can use it fine, but I think the fact of the matter is my complaints still hold that it's clunky. And the more resources we can have as far as cartographic help, I think the better. So I have no problem funneling stuff through you. But it would be nice if we could get some type of outline as to what the expectation would be as far as resources devoted, I guess, let's call it in-house for now, towards the board from the folks with expertise that currently are employed by the state, whoever they may be. And it, you know, if that doesn't seem to be working, then as a board, we could reassess that.
I think that aligns with my thinking.
But I did want to note, I was very happy to hear that, you know, though we have a pretty diverse group here, a lot of the problems that seem to be fraught in the other states were not the case here. I suspect that's A, because we're all reasonable people, and B, because we have a single congressional district.
That's right. It would have been different if we were doing this in the 1890s. I think we still had 3 at that point, 3 congressional seats.
Tom, if I could, I'll just say for the Secretary of State's office, Mia Crow, who's not able to be on the call, is perfectly willing to receive those requests from the board. We do think it would be one of the best ways to do that would be to funnel them through the chair, so that they're kind of clear and somewhat controlled. So Mia has very clear direction on what she's doing. We'll give that a try. She doesn't think it'll be overwhelming, but we'll see how many different kinds of maps you all want to see. And if that's not working well after a few weeks or a few months, then we can definitely consider some third-party resources or some other sort of help to make sure you're all getting the maps that in the way that you want to see them and want to play around with them.
Hey, Chris and Tom, this is Rob. One of the things that we could do with mapping now, before we get the numbers, is put a layer in Maptitude that indicates where the current incumbents reside, because that's one of the considerations that we have to take into consideration as we build the maps, is protecting, you know, not putting incumbents into the same districts and all of that stuff. So that's something we can do now.
Okay.
Thanks.
I thought we were supposed to ignore the incumbency.
I wish we were supposed to ignore the incumbents, but we do have a mandate in the law that says we have to take them into consideration.
What's the legislature?
If I'm wrong there, correct me.
We'll check on that. I know that there's specific statutory language naming incumbencies when the process goes to the General Assembly. I'm not so sure that it's specifically named when we're doing the work, unless maybe it's in the responses to the boards of civil authority when they weigh in. Maybe in that sub phase.
Okay. I'll look into that.
We'll look it up and send something around. The second op-ed piece was released and it got some activity. I was asked to and did go on the local ABC affiliate in Colchester and the CBS affiliate in South Burlington, just to give a little run through of what our process is about, why we do it, and why it's important. I think the word is getting around more so than it was. I'm going to be working with the Secretary of State's office on a third mailing, so to speak, that is that you all will see for your input, but it will be directed to the boards of civil authority and probably go out through the town and municipal clerks network that will just be tipping them off to the timing of when the initial house map proposal is likely to be released and alerting them to the role and responsibilities of boards of civil authority when that happens so they can get ready for it. I have also was in some dialogue with a few people from the town of Corinth, which is in the Orange 3 district, I believe, with Orange 1, 2-member district. And they're at the east end of that 2-member district, along with Berkshire, Chelsea, Washington, Orange, and Williamstown. And I remember this concern from 10 years ago. They prefer to be, this is sometimes almost like, reminds me of being in junior high school in the cafeteria and who gets to sit with who. That they would much prefer to be in a single member district that is not so much dominated by the much more populous Williamstown. I think in the currently the 2 members of the House serving in that district are from Williamstown and Orange. So anyways, that's I think a hint of what we will be hearing much more of from towns. And this was not from their Board of Civil Authority. This was just some residents saying that they would prefer a smaller single member district. I think in the past, Corinth, maybe in the distant past, Corinth was aligned in a district with Bradford. Interestingly, the preliminary census numbers for the Orange 2 district, which is Bradford, West Fairleigh, and Fairleigh, show that that's got a positive, looks like a positive deviation of greater than 9.5%. So whenever I talk to folks in the field, so to speak, I've urged them if they're going to propose to us a map change that suits them and their concerns, to try to not export the problems to other districts and try to propose a solution from their perspective that also works for a greater part of their region of the state. And they acknowledge, people generally acknowledge that. They don't always do that. I did have a phone conversation earlier this week with Ed Cafferty from Chittenden County, And he sent me a proposal for subdividing the Chittenden Senate District that I have shared, I emailed out to you all this morning, together with a copy of the Apportionment Board's own proposal for the Senate from the last cycle, just so you have that to compare the Cafferty proposal to concerning the Chittenden district. See if I can pull that up right now. And I don't know if anyone has had a chance to look at that. He's proposing single member and 2-member districts only. He's getting it down to that level. Here we go. Burlington itself, Burlington proper has 2 members, South Burlington as 1, Essex as a 1-member district, 1 senator for St. George, Shelburne, Heinsberg, Charlotte, Richmond, 1 for Underhill, Jericho, Bolton, Williston, Huntington, and Buell's Gore, and then 2 senators for Milton, Westford, Colchester, Winooski, South Hero, and Grand Isle, the 2 southernmost towns of Grand Isle County, which is a total of 8 senators, where there are currently 7 senators serving. I had a long talk with him about some of that and how we came to those conclusions. I pointed out that taking Huntington out of the Addison Senate District, where it is now, would create some negative deviation challenges for Addison. I haven't looked at the Addison numbers recently, but I'm assuming that those persist. And his proposal does not put all of the Mount Mansfield Unified Union School District towns in the same Senate district as those towns have requested. But it's a proposal that looks sensible, and it's something to ponder. I know that there will be folks in Williston who would say, we don't really belong with Huntington, Bolton, Jericho, and Underhill. We should be in with Shelburne, Charlotte, Heinsberg, or Richmond, but that's what makes this, that's the rub with this work. And I also sent out, as I mentioned, the board's proposal from 10 years ago, so you can see how the board tried to crack this nut. And one of those proposals, part of that proposal was to bring Georgia and Milton into a 2-member district with Colchester and the Islands. I think that was it. Anyways, I would encourage you to start playing around with this, even if we're not using Maptitude per se. I think it's still possible in the Chittenden Senate District with a limited number of towns to start experimenting with configurations as Mr. Cafferty has done. For clarity, I should add that Ed Cafferty, I believe, is the chair currently of the Chittenden County Democratic Committee, but he's clear that this is something he's proposing strictly on his own and not with the, on behalf of or with any endorsement from the County Democratic Committee. And
Tom.
yes, good morning.
Good morning, this is Ginny, and I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things you mentioned. I did take a peek at the proposal, just curious about it, how he was thinking about it. And I definitely noticed without Buell's Gore, Addison's really gonna, no, without Huntington and Buell's Gore, I think, I mean, we're working with estimates and we may not, they may turn out to be different when we get the final numbers, but at the present time, moving Huntington and Buell's Gore back into Chittenden, where of course they reside, but out of the district, is another it would take another 2,000, plus or minus out of Addison. And Addison's currently, again, using the best estimates we have right now, under by about 7%. And I think that would push us, it would push Addison into a zone that would require further adjustment. Let's just put it that way, probably. So just to keep that in mind. But, and which is no surprise. I mean, that's kind of the way these things go, as we've said. These types of adjustments have ripple effects, and, we're going to have to take a look. I did want to just quickly also make a quick follow-up comment of something you were getting at earlier, which is there may be some benefit to, we may have already posted this, so I apologize if I've missed it, but a kind of a timeline for folks to see at least our estimate of when we expect certain things to be happening. Hopefully without over promising, but in the past, because most of the deadlines for various things to happen were statutorily determined, which doesn't mean, we couldn't also share that information more broadly. But now we're people I think may feel it's a little less clear when certain steps are likely to happen. So I wonder if maybe we could think about something that could be posted that's no more than a page, so people take a look at kind of the calendar.
Could I ask, would that you envision something like a work plan for a timeline / work plan, so that we would start looking out into the next 3 to 4 months and say, these are the things we want to try to accomplish during this week or this 2-week period?
I mean, I think it would certainly contribute to thinking of it in terms of a work plan. But right now, my comment was mostly about things like when, by when would information be available for boards of civil authority? Just the kinds of questions where the public will get a feel for when they have some expectation for when they would be able to take a look at something and weigh in on it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I think that's a great idea. If we don't do something like that, we're going to find ourselves scrambling at times, and we may do that anyway. But having that both for the public and for ourselves, I think, is a terrific idea.
Well, and I'll just add the exercise of making it may help us just in our own planning.
Okay. And going back to your comments about the Addison Senate District, looking into Rutland County, for example, to move a Rutland County town into the Addison District is potentially problematic because of I don't recall what the estimated deviation for the Rutland Senate District is now, but I think it's probably not much better than the existing deviation for the Addison District.
We're at, again, using the estimates that are posted, we're at just over 7% too low, and they are at just over 7.7% too low.
Yeah, and then on the east side of Addison County, you've got
Washington.
There's this little section there that sneaks in from Orange County, I believe. And then you've got Washington County over the mountain. Is that?
Yep. It's all over the mountain.
So, right. So that you've got Warren, Roxbury, a little bit of Basin, then Braintree and Rochester. So there aren't a huge amount of options for Addison in that scenario, and I think we've all agreed we can't cross the lake to pull in a town from New York. We might be able to get some takers over there, but
there's Canada. Sorry.
Border's closed.
Oh.
So I will work on, maybe I'll just deputize you, Jeannie. You and I will maybe work on a timeline / work plan and put it out for input so we can start mapping out our own destiny in terms of the calendar.
Sure, that's fine.
I was going to ask John Adams for any updates from him, but he's not with us at this meeting this morning. We've heard from Chris about the Secretary of State's office and from Amarin. Does anyone else on the board have any updates or just commentary you'd like to share at this point?
I have something very important, Tom. Chris, are you guys going to send us the stipend forms before the fiscal year is done? Because I know one of the other commissions I'm on said they need to get that stuff done. I don't know if it's the same thing for the Secretary of State's office, but that their money goes away for the per diems at the end of the fiscal year.
It does not go away.
Okay.
I was going to ask that question because one board member has filed for per diems. So if anyone else wants to, I will send out that form by email to everyone, and you're welcome to fill those out and get those back to us, and we'll get those processed just as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Everybody might not even know what we're talking about, by the way.
True. So board members are entitled to some per diem compensation that usually would also include mileage, and there hasn't been much of that. And it can include a meal if you're here for a certain number of hours. So compensation for that, but it's a $50 per day per diem, which is what per diem is. So I can send the form out there, and for each of the meetings that you had, you're entitled to a $50 compensation. If you find that you're doing a lot of work in between meetings, which we may see in the coming months, there's also, we can prorate that on an hourly basis. It comes out to very little, and we know that you're doing this out of the goodness of your hearts and not for the little bit of compensation that you would get from this. But if you do find that you're doing a lot of work in between meetings, I would encourage you to either talk to the chair or contact me, and we can figure out that hourly rate, and you can put in for that for reimbursement as well. So I'll send the forms right after this meeting. If you need any help filling out the forms, feel free to reach right back out to me through email or give me a call.
Mary, any buzzing down your way about redistricting yet? Are you people stopping you on the street or at the supermarket yet?
No, people are not stopping me in either of those places.
Okay. Good. I've been through times in my public life when people were stopping me at the supermarket on the street, and sometimes it's not very pleasant. Okay. I meant to say, I also got contacted by a couple of folks in Essex Junction who are looking at redistricting in the context of their efforts and efforts of others in Essex Junction, the village, to propose a charter change to separate the village from the town completely and turn it into the city of Essex Junction. And they were trying to understand whether the reapportionment process might somehow align with that or not. It was mainly just a very much background exploration. There are Essex and Essex Town are comprised two-member districts. The village dominated one also includes a small part of the town, sort of on the Susie Wilson Road area going east. And then the town district includes part of Westford. I'm just passing that on for information purposes. That's an interesting, that those communities have been trying to separate or unite on and off again for 60 years. And they're still going at it. Anyone else on the board have anything for the good of the board to share, or we can adjourn in a few minutes?
I have just one quick thing I forgot. It's sort of also might lead to a question, but I did hear from someone in response to some of the questions that were in the last op-ed, kind of just to get people thinking about, like, what's more important to you, making sure the populations in each district are as close to equal as possible, or allowing larger differences to maintain district lines closer to the status quo? And some other questions. How important is your legislative district lines conform to county boundary lines, and so on. And I heard from someone who I believe is the Weybridge Democratic chair. I apologize. I know him, but I think that may also be the town chair. He may be the town chair there. But anyway, and none of it was particularly earth-shattering or surprising. But I just wondered, that's something maybe we could keep in mind if we really do want to get replies to questions like that. We could post a small survey. I'm not promoting that idea necessarily. I'm just saying, that is something that we could do. That's all.
I think that's a good idea, Jeannie.
I mean, again, it's more just, it may be helpful to us. Maybe it won't. Unless we got flooded, which seems unlikely, I can't imagine it would be bad. I don't know.
Okay.
I
Is
suppose
is that a possibility, Chris? Do we have the resources to do a survey?
Sure. Yep. We have the accounts. We can set that up.
Okay. Well, I'll maybe Rob, if you want to work with Jeannie to see, mock something up to see what that might look like, go ahead.
Sure.
I will say that I'm, in other, interactions where I ask people to weigh in on certain topics that they have in mind, or just leave it open to them to say what they have in mind, on what's on their mind. I often get very similar kinds of responses, like that, the importance of various affinities in the region. We've talked about some of those, like school districts and so on. I tend to get very, very common responses around single member districts, like they're preferred, but there's always a catch regarding, they don't want things, towns to have to be divided up too much, things like that. So it'd be interesting to hear people's responses on a number of topics we've talked about,
And Jeannie, I'm assuming you're talking about an emailed survey and a defined number of people you'd want to send it to?
Well, I was thinking more something that would be on the website, like a Google survey or something that people could be directed to the website. Yeah.
Yep.
Chris, what software do you use? Is it like a SurveyMonkey, or do you have something?
Yeah, SurveyMonkey is one that I know we have an account for. We may have another somewhere in the office.
Okay.
Or like Qualtrics or something like that. Whatever. I don't care about the particular software to do it so much as it's secure and easy for us to use the results.
Well, it's the reason I ask is because SurveyMonkey has different. You can ask like a multiple choice question. You can have a ranked choice question. I just wanted to know if all those menu options for how to ask a question were available. So if it's SurveyMonkey, I'm familiar with that platform. So
well, that's good. Yeah.
Bob, you didn't just say ranked choice question, did you?
Not that we would ever use such a thing in our survey.
Okay. Good. Those are good thoughts.
Hard pass.
See what unanimity we have?
If I could just, I'd love to hear some feedback from the board about future meetings and attendance in person. Some of you who are farther away might still want to have the remote option, but it would help me in our office in planning for future meetings if we knew how many of you might want to be here in person versus attending remotely.
I'd like to come. I mean, it's easy for me to get to Montpelier, so.
The other thing that we can do, and this could be part of public outreach as well, is have some board meetings, move them around the state, so we could, plus remote participation by board members as they may wish. But I think it really is a very positive outreach for a state body like our board to hold a meeting in Brattleboro or Manchester, move it around so that people know that we're in their community and we care about how they feel, and it just sends a positive message.
If you're going to do that, I think the way to make the outreach is by, when we have that, make sure that every select board and every town clerk is notified.
Amen. Yeah.
And Tom, if we're going to do that, we should probably plan on doing the next one someplace else, because there aren't very many meetings before we get back into the real when we get our numbers. And I think we should be more concentrated on being in a spot and focusing on doing the work than the public outreach. So if we want to do some stuff around the state, which I think is a good idea, we should probably start next time.
I know that I've been in the business of doing that before, and you always try to figure out, okay, where do we absolutely have to go? And when I did it for the when I was co-chair of the Governor Scott's marijuana study commission, we ended up Bennington, Brattleboro, White River Junction, St. Johnsbury, Rutland, Williston, and I think St. Albans. And that seemed to, I mean, it didn't make everybody happy, but that was enough of a spread around the state. So you usually need to do, 5+ of those if you're going to touch most of the bases. Okay. The other thing that we could do in that vein is, and some of this could overlap with when the boards of civil authority get involved and have their own public hearings. We could send individual apportionment board members or pairs out to hearings around the state, or to even hold, an informational hearing that isn't the full apportionment board. That might be another way of achieving some of that outreach. I mean, was it a little less than 2 years ago, 2019, I did Secretary Condos and I did a public meeting in West Dover that got a lot of play down in that area. That went over quite well, and it makes people, as I said earlier, people feel appreciated when you do that. So we'll come up with some ideas and specifics about that.
But with the time frame, I mean, there's like 5 places we need to visit, and it's the end of June right now, and we want to get started on the meteor stuff, let's say by the end of August.
Yeah.
Also keeping in mind that, this is just my opinion, when you're doing public outreach, if you do it between the middle of July and the middle of August, people complain that they were away and that you did that on purpose to try and subvert the process. Not that that would be the purpose, but that's...
Can't please everybody.
That's true, Tom. It's wise advice.
Anything else you want to add to the mix today? Okay, and thank you for joining together in this meeting. We'll keep an eye out for the minutes. Keep an eye out for some draft of the work plan / timeline, a survey idea, and some more specifics about meeting around the 4 corners of our state. And good luck to Amarin, to you and Michael with the veto session.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
No other business. I will, and seeing no opposition, we will stand in adjournment. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.